Good evening, I'm Guy Cater. Welcome to the show. We have two wonderful and magical guests this evening. First up is Malcolm Silverman, a very funny man, a great MC and a comedy magician. Malcolm's going to be followed by a beautiful lady who comes from Palmerston North in the Manawatu. She's a dancer and a magician. Let's start the show now by meeting Malcolm Silverman. Good to have you on the show.
Guy, it's good to be here. Can I just say, I love your tie.
You may say that.
I've got a bicycle seat in the same material.
And likewise, I would like to thank you so much for coming along in your pyjama shirt. That's really nice.
It's a pleasure.
I said in the intro, one of the funniest magicians that I know, and you are. All your magic, is it funny, comedy?
I was influenced a lot by Tommy Cooper.
That would explain a lot.
Yes, and Tommy Cooper was a very accomplished magician. But the way he would do routines that went wrong were hilarious, and I loved that style.
So, at what age were you when you were first influenced?
I've only been involved in magic for the last 20 years.
Oh, is that all?
And in fact, it was, long story short, Danny Phillips's kids were involved in magic.
Yes.
My kids got involved in magic, and they wouldn't tell me how things were done, and I would deprive them of. I would beat them and deprive them of food, and they still wouldn't tell me. And Danny said to me once, "Look, you know, you've got a good sense of humour. You're an engineer by trade. Come along," and that's what happened.
Do you know, I had no idea about that. I thought you'd always been a magician.
No, it fascinated me, and I wanted to know how things worked.
Right.
Which is my engineering background.
Of course, of course. But you MC as well a lot?
MC and General Dog's Body, do the sound and so on and so forth.
Yeah. But you go out as the Great Malconey?
The Great Malconey. So,
how did you get that name?
When I was young, and probably... No, you'll remember this, valve radios and crystal sets. And
I do. Yes, I do indeed.
I used to build crystal sets when I was in when I was 8 or 9, and my dad nicknamed me Malconey, basically a play on words of Malcolm and Marconi.
Marconi, yes.
And so consequently, he was a very good artist, and he did a caricature of myself with a fez. Tommy Cooper,
yes,
and called it the Great Malconey, and I thought, hey, that sounds good.
Yes,
and I used that, and in fact, I had a radio shop at the bottom of the bottom of Anzac Avenue, which was called Malcolm's Radio. The guy that I bought it from, his last name was Malcolm.
Oh, really?
So and he was delighted that a Malcolm was taking over.
Yes.
But we changed the name to Malconey Radio, and that was there for quite a few years. But I just loved the Great Malconey.
It's a great name. So do you perform very often?
Not the last couple of years, because my other business has been keeping me pretty busy, but I went through a period where I had a lot of work on, and I loved it.
So what sort of gigs were they?
More corporate than kids. I mean, I love kids, but I couldn't eat a whole one.
No, exactly.
So more corporate stuff, adult stuff. Not that I do obscene stuff, but my gags for young kids just straight over the top.
Yes.
And in fact, if I did the odd children's party, I tended to do my jokes focusing at the parents standing at the back.
Yes.
And that's where I'd get the gags.
Nice.
It's the old story of the comedians. You survive on the response you get.
I'm just surprised. I didn't realise, like you said, you only started 20 years ago. Your whole demeanour on stage is one of a seasoned professional. Well, it is.
I say that to everybody.
Show us something. Let's see your skills.
Okay. So what we have here is a cube, and I'm going to get you to take the cube out, and you'll see that it's a cube of numbers.
I see that.
And I just want you to choose a number. I'm going to look away, and place it back in the box facing up, but just before you put the lid back on, I want you to look at those numbers. And you'll find that essentially your eyes will retain that image. And by looking into your eyes, I can either guess what number you chose or I'll fall asleep.
So you want the lid back on?
Lid back on the
Yes,
table.
on the table.
So now I look into your eyes and sleep. You chose 5, if you'd like to lift the lid off.
Well, that's quite remarkable.
Now, I tell you what, just so there's no trickery of the box, why don't you choose another number
Yes.
and leave your both hands over it, and I'll tell you what number it is. I'll just
All
look
right.
the other way.
You got the number on top.
Just a number on top.
Nothing
just
is
cover it with your
prepared.
hands. But look at that number before you cover it.
Yes, I'm looking,
Okay?
and I've looked.
I can see a bit of sleep from last night, but I believe that you chose the number 6. There we go.
That really is remarkable. That really is amazing.
Of course, it's all done with mirrors.
Of course, of course. That's very good. However, you couldn't use that in a corporate show, could you?
No,
It,
no.
It would be too.
But in a
too
corporate
small.
show, I could. This is one of my favourite routines. Have I got the right camera here? So I've got 4 queens here. I'll just change the text slightly. Queen Anne, Elizabeth. So obviously 4 queens. So 2 are black and 2 are red. Mm-hmm. This is a pretend game. What I'd like you to do is to pretend to choose a black or a red. So which one would you like?
I have pretended.
And would you tell me?
Red.
Red. So I'm going to take the red and put them on top, and I'm going to take the black and throw them away.
And you're just pretending.
So I'm just pretending. So
Right.
now I've got 2 red and the black have gone.
Right.
So of the red, I would have a queen of hearts and a queen of diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to just pretend to reach forward, take one of the cards, turn it the other way, and pop it back in the pack.
I could do that.
And just tell me when you've done it.
I've done that.
You've done that. That's interesting. So now we have one card that is face up,
Yes.
the rest are face down. Would you tell me in a big clear voice what card?
The Queen of Hearts.
The Queen of Hearts.
Yes.
You're joking.
I know.
You know, I had a premonition this morning, but I'm feeling better, that I thought that you might choose the Queen of Hearts because when you look at that, and not only am I convinced that you were going to choose that, I actually gave it a different back.
Wow.
And then I thought to myself, you know what, if Guy chooses that, what's the point of printing anything on those?
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
Thank you. Thank you for that applause. Scattered but sincere.
Exactly. It is indeed. What have you got coming up, lined up in the magic world?
Look, I've just stepped down from the IBM committee, which I enjoyed a lot, but just
The IBM is...
IBM, the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I was
Right.
on the committee for quite a few years. So now I'm just enjoying the meetings, both the BAM, Brotherhood of Auckland Magicians,
Yes.
and IBM.
The magic fraternity is very close, aren't they?
Look, they're lovely people, and it's a friendship that I've developed with a lot of magicians, and I enjoy their company, and it's very pleasant.
And the thing is, too, that always surprises me with the magicians being really so friendly and so close, and yet they're all competing in the marketplace, aren't they?
They are, and yet they'll all help you.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Amazing.
It's not a big market out there, and as the times get a bit tougher, it gets a bit harder to find gigs.
Yes.
But, you know, the good magicians get the work.
Right. And the funny ones, too. Wanted to ask you, just it's going to throw you right out, what is your favourite joke that can be told?
That can be told. Oh, goodness.
Do you have a favourite gag?
Well, I have an all-time favourite, but it's probably a bit risque.
Well, let's do it anyway, and the editors can decide.
We can always edit it. So there's a couple of Australians talking in a bar, and at the other end of the bar, this very well-dressed gentleman comes in and sits down, and one of the Australians gets up and he goes across and says, "G'day, mate." And the gentleman says, "How do you do?" He says, "What do you do?" He says, "I'm a professor." He said, "What sort of professor are you?" He said, I'm a professor of logic." He said, "What the hell's that?" He said, "Well, tell me." He says, "Do you have a wheelbarrow?" "Yeah, I've got a wheelbarrow." "Well, if I use logic, the fact that you've got a wheelbarrow tells me that you look after your garden. Now, logically, the fact that you look after your garden tells me that you probably own your own home. And because you own your own home, you're probably in a stable relationship. And logically, if I extend there, you're in a long-term relationship and you don't play with yourself." and the guy said, "Oh, okay." And they carry on talking. Eventually he gets up and he wanders off, and the mate goes back. And, "Who are you talking to, Blue?" He says, "That guy is a professor." He said, "What sort of professor?" He said, "I'll tell you." He said, "He's a professor of logic." "What is a professor of logic?" "I'll explain." He said, "Have you got a wheelbarrow?" He said, "No." He says, "You're a wanker."
I like that. But just in case, what's your second favourite joke?
Oh, goodness.
No, don't feel pressured.
No pressure.
No pressure.
My mum, just talking about sports, my mum was a boxer. My dad was a Cocker Spaniel. I see exit signs are on their way out.
That's terrible. I love it. When you're performing as an MC, you have to introduce people, and you're always putting a few little gags. Do you go scripted, or you just see what happens?
Look, it's very funny. I can, if somebody gives me a subject matter, I can usually pull a joke out of the air.
Right.
Based on that subject. To get up and do stand-up comedy is really hard, and quite often what I'll do is I'll just have the first line or the first couple of words as a prompt.
Right.
And then I can go through.
Yes.
But I do try and work out what I'm going to say beforehand. It's very hard to just on tap.
Yes, and you can't predict what an audience is going to do, can you?
Well, you can't. I mean, I remember doing a gig once at a large computer company, whose name I can't reveal, IBM, and they had a rock band on, and they said to me, the band's going to have a break for 45 minutes, you do your show, and of course I've got a shooting routine which helped me win the New Zealand Comedy Magic Award a couple of times.
Yes.
And so go on, set up, and do your 45 minutes, get off, and the band will play. Well, by the time I came on, the stage was quite rickety. My props needed some fairly sort of solid bass. The crowd was very happy in an alcoholic way.
They were persistently drinking.
Yes. And they didn't want a magician. And I was on there for 10 minutes, and I thought, this is not working. And I called the organiser over and I said, look, sorry, it's not working. They don't want me on. Still got paid.
Yes. I have an IBM story as well. Booked for 3 gigs, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch. Did the Christchurch gig. Finished off with a trick that you would know, where you tie 2 scarves together and pop them down and pull it down. I got paid off for doing that trick. The audience loved it. They were roaring. I walked off stage feeling great, but the GM or somebody up high was a bit too religious and didn't like that. So they paid me for the whole 3 gigs and I went home. Happy. Happy, happy.
That's all right.
Speaking of predictions, you have an envelope there.
I do. Well, I had a prediction this morning and I put it in an envelope and I'll place it there. It consists of a couple of things. So first and foremost, I just want you to reach in and take a card.
Yes.
have a look at it. You might want to show the camera.
Okay, where are we? There we go. Yes.
Pop it back in the pack.
Anywhere?
Yep.
Where it came from?
Yep. We'll just put those all together. And now, what I want you to do is I want you to think about what you might do on a Saturday. You're probably going to go to the supermarket.
Oh, yeah, I always do that on Saturday nights.
If you went to the supermarket, what supermarket would you go to? You go to
Countdown?
Countdown.
There we
Countdown. Okay. So you've gone to Countdown and you're walking down the aisles and you see a tin of something. What would it be?
Baked beans.
A tin of baked beans. So you're in Countdown, tin of baked beans. And how much did you pay for that tin of baked beans?
$1.75.
$1.75.
Yeah.
So Countdown, baked beans, $1.75. Would you be amazed if I've predicted that? And we didn't set this up before.
No.
Right.
I would be totally staggered.
It would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
It would be very good.
It would probably increase my bookings considerably, wouldn't it?
I'm sure it would.
Let's have a look. So, Countdown,
Baked beans?
baked beans, $1.75.
Yes.
Guy, here is the barcode for that item.
Well, now I am amazed.
Now, you also chose a card.
I did indeed, yes.
Let me try and read your mind and tell you that it was the two of spades.
No.
That it was the three of clubs.
No.
Now, fortunately, I have an insurance policy, the Magician's insurance policy. And I'll just read the information about it as to how I use it. But
Oh, very good.
was that your card?
Excellent.
Well, there you go.
Excellent.
There you go.
Do you know what? This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed having you in here, Malcolm.
I've enjoyed being here.
You want to shout out to anybody or any last thing you'd like to say?
Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad.
Malcolm Silverman, thank you so much indeed.
Thanks, Guy. It's been a pleasure.
Welcome back. My second guest tonight is a lovely young lady that I haven't seen for 15 years. She's driven up from Palmerston North to Auckland and she's sitting right beside me. Ladies and gentlemen, Evelyn Strugnall. Hi, Evelyn.
Hello, Guy.
Mwah. It is lovely to see you.
I think it is a long time since we've seen each other, isn't it?
Well, it is, yes.
Probably one of the shows that we were together at, perhaps the Manawatu A&P show.
Yes, or even Lifestyle in
Lifestyle
in Palmerston North.
You're
the
right.
Famous Don Eade show.
You're right.
You've had a life of magic. In fact, you've done everything, really, haven't you? From circuses to stage. Where did it all begin?
Well, I have to go right back to my childhood. My mum and dad were on a farm. Well, we were all on a farm, of course. And Mum said, I think she is always dancing to music. She's always, you know, dressing up, da-da-da-da. And so I think we need to have her taught dancing. So she used to bike 14 miles on a metal road from Whawharua into Otahonga for my lessons,
Wow.
for my dance lessons on a Saturday. And if she couldn't do that because she was unwell, I would go on the cream truck. And that was an experience on its own.
Yes.
In those days. So that was with the Doherty sisters, and I learned Highland and tap. And at the age of 12, we moved to Hamilton. So of course the schools were a lot better then, and I could learn music. So I started on the piano, and then we started doing things like entertaining the old folks and
yes,
entertaining
yes.
different clubs and what have you. And my dancing just sailed ahead because I was absolutely crazy on it. I had to take a pick between gymnasium and the dancing, and
Right.
because the gym puts your feet straight ahead, that was not good for the dancing where I needed a 45-degree
Oh, right, yes.
with the feet. So that started happening, and I learnt ballroom as well, and that was off Jack Guthrie, who was a very well-known ballroom teacher at the time. And so it went on, but always did lots of playbox shows with David Reed, who
Oh,
was
yes.
the producer, and always dancing, always playing music. And at that time I joined a marching band and I learned how to march, and I was soon leading a marching team. And
mean you
from
were
there, yeah,
what are they
well, not quite, but from there I decided I wanted to be a drum major.
Drum major, yes.
So because I was already then at those, I have to go back a little bit, at the schools in those days they had compulsory military training.
Right.
So I took the choice of going and learning drums. So I was a drummer. And so I joined a brass band and I joined a pipe band.
You were
so
busy.
I was really a busy kid,
Yes.
you know. And besides that, I had ponies. So I used to love to go to the AMP shows and compete with my pony, and I still have horses till
Wow.
till today. And so yes, I've always been busy.
So how did the magic, where did you have time for that?
Well, I went over to Sydney for a ballroom competition and the Eisteddfod, what is known as the Eisteddfod over there, to compete. And while I was there, I discovered the rehearsal room of the Tivoli Theatre. And the girls were actually in rehearsal, and Miss George, who was the teacher there, said, look, you can join in the back if you like. And I was probably not quite 16 years of age. So I joined in the back, and of course in those years when you're young, you can learn things fairly quick. And I learned all the girls, what the girls were doing on the Tivoli Theatre. And for those that don't know what the Tivoli Theatre was, it was a variety show with all different artists from all over the world. So
And that was in Sydney?
That was in Sydney.
Right.
So sitting in rehearsals at the Tivoli Theatre, there was a magician that came over from Germany, and I can't remember his name because it's foreign, but and it was hard to say anyway, but he was sitting, and I said, teach me some magic, please. Well, he did silk magic along with marionettes.
Oh, nice.
And the marionettes were just absolutely fabulous. I just loved them because we used to come on straight after that. But his magic there, so he started teaching me some silk magic, and he said, well, come on, let's go a little bit further. And I learned a little bit with rubber bands and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you know, just while everybody else was busy and we were sitting back watching. So that kind of happened. And from there, I came home and I started doing a little bit of circus, which was Whirling Brothers Circus. And
What did you do in the circus?
well, I did a whole magic act in the circus, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, I just thought I didn't have to do week after week after week, but I would do weekends first of all. And I just loved it. It was an atmosphere that you can't explain.
Well, look, we just happen to have a little clip
Oh,
of
do you?
you in the circus, and we're going to have a look at it. Have a look over there. That was you in the circus. You did enjoy it, didn't you?
I did. I loved it, yes. And people were very helpful, and I have a lot of thank yous to say to quite a few magicians here in New Zealand.
Go ahead.
Like, for example, when I was doing Whirling Brothers Circus, I remember Bill Reed coming over to me and saying, your angles aren't quite right with that dove pan, dear. And I thought, oh, well, this is good, something constructive.
Yes.
So I corrected it. And thank you, Bill. That really taught me something right in the initial beginning. So then I became very aware of an audience of right round me,
One of my kids asked me the other day, when are you going to retire, Dad? I said, never probably. When are you going to retire?
I keep saying I am going to retire, but it never happens.
No, we can't. We're entertainers. In fact, what we're going to do now is actually see you perform live here in the studio.
Oh, yes, certainly.
So, Evelyn, that was absolutely wonderful. And that's the sort of thing you do in cabaret.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I've loved having you back up here. It's been really... No, it's been so much fun.
It's lovely to see people. You know, we went visiting one of the magicians yesterday, and it's just lovely to see everybody that I haven't seen for so long.
Well, look, you enjoy your stay here in Auckland.
Thank you.
Come back and see me soon.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Evelyn, what a great night. I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight's show. I'd like to thank my special guests, Malcolm Silverman and Evelyn Strugnall, and to invite you back here, same time, same channel next week for The Guy Cater Show. And remember, it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. Good night.